Well, hello, it's been a minute. So I haven't uploaded in a while because I started playing Persona 3 and that took up like 60 hours of my last 2 weeks. But anyway, I managed to finish the sisters in time, so we're just going to talk about those today. This is actually my original Custodes color scheme. I wanted to go with the green, gold, white that the Selesnya Conclave uses. And I think I came close in this iteration, but I forgot the white. I forgot a lot of the white. I opted for the silver instead of the white, and even though it looks good, it doesn't actually give off the vibe that I was going for. So I kind of tried correcting that with the sisters, and I believe if you look at this custodian one, I did, there we go. I fixed it by adding white onto the cape, which I think gives it a lot more identity compared to the Selesnya Conclave. I opted for the green symbol. I was going to make this gold, but I figured like I wanted to keep the white and green color scheme on going. The line was really good. This is actually just one coat of Army Painter Speed Paint on each of the body parts, which looks fantastic. There's no wash on these. I love those paints. I messed up her face a little bit, but it got to the point where I was adding too many layers of skin tone, where if I added more it was going to look worse, so I kept it as is. The hair was originally going to be black, but I dipped my brush in the wrong color, and we kind of just rolled with it. I don't think anybody will notice that it's around the same brown as the lion, but I think at least that gives it a little more color consistency across the piece. This sculpt was a little low quality in the actual like finer details, because I believe this was originally a scan of an old custodian model. But overall I think it came out well. It's got a bit of heft to it, and it actually looks pretty imposing next to a regular custodian. I think it's a solid, probably one head taller, which is fine. I added some water details to the basing on this go around, so instead of just like the dirt and fall leaves, you actually have like some water slides as if they're standing next to a river or a creek in the forest. Then I went for the Sister Superiors. I opted for these sculpts from DivergingRealms because the 40k sculpts of the sisters only have like one model, which I don't think looks well compared to like the multiple types of custodians that you can actually field. So with this one, I opted for one ranged focus sister, which again, keeping the white on the loincloth, making sure there's just enough white to show the actual color scheme off without taking away from the regular earthy tones of like the gold, the green, and the orange on the floor. If I had added more white to the piece, like if I had made these little bits white or I made the rims white, I don't think it would look good. It would have taken away from the overall color scheme. I tried doing a little bit of a glow effect onto the plasma. Originally these should be green, but I wanted to keep the earthy tone, so I kept the orange, yellow, red, even though it's not actually fire. Overall happy with this sculpt. For the melee one, I went, again, similar color scheme. I messed up the head a little bit, but I'm overall okay with it. Keeping the green was really smart on my part, doing it on just the accents of the armor. And then keeping the white here. The only thing I don't like about this piece is that the blade is curved. It's like super floppy, and it ended up curing in that sloped angle. But that's kind of the trade-off. Since I'm printing all these, I either use like low quality regular resin, which is stiffer, so this would remain straight, but it'd be really brittle and would break. I usually use ABS like resin, which even though it's a little flimsy, these don't break. I've dropped these from like probably 6-7 feet up in the air. It's kind of like a stress test, and they don't shatter. Like I just drop these and they're fine. Which is why I prefer these, because if you're moving these around a battlefield, you want to make sure they're stable enough and secure enough so they don't break. Little bits like this, like I'm putting a lot of force into them, it's not snapping. Which I think is really good for the resin here. Aside from the main sisters, I also opted for the squad of 3 Flamer sisters. Which these I'm immensely proud of. I used Earthshade for all of these, so that's why the gold, even though it's supposed to be like a bright shining gold, it's got that earthy texture to it, because I used a lot of the Earthshade, probably more than I should, but that gave it that really rugged, I've been walking through the forest in the dirt look, which is kind of the vibe I'm opting out for here. This is the first attempt of me doing that glowing effect. I don't have any contrast paints of these colors, so I just use straight up matte Vallejo paints, which I think I did pretty well. Let me zoom in here. I think I did the overall effect pretty well on these. I managed to just opt for just darkening the eye, not only because it was easier, but because I don't know, I think having just straight up eyeballs and irises there wouldn't have looked nearly as good. And you have 2 more over here. I wasn't sure whether to actually paint the coils and the tubing with a glow effect, but I think if I had done that, it would have taken away from just the focal point being the center of the gun and where they are looking at. If this was also glowing red, it wouldn't have overall looked well enough. I did lose a little bit of the detail work on the back end because I put way too much wash on these parts because I wanted to show the actual fur coat. But overall, I think out of all the pieces that I've done for the sister series, I think these 3 are my favorite models so far. And then going for the actual infantry group, which I have the squad of 5 sisters, just regular rifle holding ones. The faces, I lost a little bit of detail in because I overdid it with the wash. But overall, since this is just a regular infantry troop, I didn't care all that much. There is a slight chance that I will come back, probably strip this just ahead and then redo it later on, but I'm overall happy with how these ended up, you know? The only good project is a finished one after all. Really proud of basing on these. This is, I believe, Vallejo texture paint, and then just random little bits of leaves that I got from Amazon, and then a twig that I got from my backyard. Like the olive green. I don't know if it's an olive green or just like a forest green, but this darker green shade with slight highlights, I think, is one of my favorite paints by Vallejo. I think it's, let me grab it actually. Here. It's actually refractive green by Vallejo, with a little bit of earth shade on it, and that brown accent works wonders. I didn't use any black shade or regular dark tones for any of these, because I didn't want it to darken too much, and the earth shade gave it a warmer feel with the red undertones and the brown. The guns, by the time I got to the guns, I got really lazy, so I just painted them black and then just dry brushed a bunch of metallic on it. Look, here's an example of one of the bases with the water texture. I messed up a little bit with the gold, but when you're looking at this much detail in this smaller piece, I think it's fine. I don't think I ruined the overall feeling of it. And then when you actually stand them next to each other, let me put these all in a group. Like when you stand them all beside each other like this in a large group, specifically the water ones next to each other, the bases seem uniform enough where you can actually feel like they're walking through a forest as you're moving the models across the board. The original Custodians model, not so much, because this is the first one I did, which I did this one almost a year ago at this point. It was one of the first models I ever printed and then based. So you're losing a lot of the regular shine and glimmer in the armor. This was a really poor sculpt that I printed out, so you lost a lot of the detail on it. Compared to these, which have fantastic detail at this scale. Like if I zoom in, you can see individual skulls, little pips and everything. Really solid models by DivergingRealms. I did have to scale them up a little bit, but I'm very happy with it. Now, as I think some of you noticed on Twitter, I don't actually like a lot of the Custodies models outside of the infantry. So like the Jetpack Custodies I don't like. I love the Terminators. I don't like the Jetpack Brothers. I don't like the Jetbike Brothers. I don't like their tanks. So I don't really feel like printing out a bunch of Custodies models and painting them if I don't overall like the way they look. So as I'm building my Custodies list, instead of opting for the regular tanks and the faster units, I'm actually doing this, which is going to be the next update. This is a 170mm base for an Imperial Knight. Since I'm not really playing by the regular 40k rules, it's not like specifically a Canis Rex or another one of the knights. It's just a general Imperial Knight that I use for one-page rolls. In this base, I'm very happy with. I kept a bunch of the Vallejo water texture paint, to look like there's just a roaring river of Necron bits that are flowing through the forest. I do have to still add a little bit of wash to this to darken the water so it looks like a foresty, like dirty stream. When I'm done with it, it should be around the same color as that one. And it's not just going to be a regular Imperial Knight. It's, whoa, can I zoom out of this actually? Here, I'll use it in my hand. I actually found a lot of armor pieces online that give it that custodian feel. You have the little lion shoulder pads. I believe this is Michael defeating Satan in a little, not sigil, it's like a shield. Like this is supposed to be a full-size shield for an infantry unit, and I just glued it on there. The guns, the top's a little different. I opted for the 2 side guns, and then I still have the hole if I ever decide to add the regular tops for the knights. I'll put this down. You actually have this gigantic custodian lance here. Now when you actually stand this up, it's huge. You're looking at least like a foot tall once you actually have everything put together, and then comparing it to the actual infantry units, this is going to be huge. And this little piece, when I found this 3D model, it actually convinced me to do an Imperial Knight. And then you have the regular feet. So once this is actually, oops, disorienting, it's going to be like that. And then this part will stand up like that. Actually, that's backwards. It'll be like that. And then the actual lance will be up here. So that's going to be the next project. I don't know how long this is going to take, because I've never actually painted a knight of this size. I know I skipped a lot of steps by priming it in this metallic silver instead of regular primer. And then, let's go back on the top one. And then that's the head so far. Opted for a more detail-oriented helmet type. I'm not sure how I'm going to paint it though, color-wise. Because knights, they have a lot of flat panels, and they don't have like... Well, they have a lot of detail, but they don't have an easy way for me to organize the gold, green, white, and maybe a little bit of bronze and silver on it. So, see how that works out for next time. Anyway, I'll see you in the next update.